Welcome to Inspired Money Live. I'm Andy Wong, host of Inspired Money. And what is this series all about? We've gathered today to talk a little bit about, after 6 years or nearly 6 years of publishing the Inspired Money podcast, that's 273 episodes, I figure it's time to get uncomfortable again. After all, at the end of every episode, I say, have an inspired week, do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens. And I think I need to walk the walk. A guitarist mentor once told me that he likes to feel like he's walking on a tightrope when he's on stage, improvising, never really repeating the same thing twice, and hoping not to fall off. You know, you don't want to fall down. So here we go. We've been hard at work here planning 100 live stream episodes, a transformational journey where I'm going to learn and you, the viewer, are going to learn. We're going to learn together to make more, give more, and live more. No matter where you are right now, you can do better with your money. We all can. So do you want to earn more? Do you want to give more? Wherever you are you living your best life? I'm so excited about this journey that we are going to begin right now. So mark your calendars for Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 Central, 4 Mountain, 3 o'clock out in California. I want to bring in my brother, Chris, who I've been working with for over 20 years, I think. I rarely talk about my business, Running Meat Capital, and thought it would be fun to test this first live stream where we may run into technical difficulties. I should share with you that my computer yesterday, the internet was so slow, I thought that things were going to completely blow up. We couldn't even test anything because my computer was all locked up. And not that much has changed between yesterday and today. So I'm just hoping that the gremlins are at bay and Chris has not fed the gremlins after midnight. If we can bring in Chris, do I do that? I don't know. Is Chris in? I see Joe. Just Saul-Sehy, everybody.
I thought Chris was just here and now Chris is gone. So you just booted him.
I actually didn't press anything, but Joe, welcome to the show.
How are you, man? So 100 of these. You're starting small. You're starting.
Well, we aspire to do 100. We've plotted out 100 episodes, and we're going to see how it goes.
That is crazy. I don't know. I do it one at a time. So better you than me, my friend.
Put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let me just give you a preview. I'm going to talk about like the first 5 episodes. Is that a small enough digestible start?
Let's do it.
So today we're talking about financial freedom loosely, but episode 1 is going to have the same title, Financial Freedom Unleashed. We're going to talk about the secrets to achieving financial freedom and early retirement through smart investing, good savings, mindful investing. Episode 2, the art of giving back. Because philanthropy and giving back is so important to living fully and just having that relationship with your money. Giving is part of it, no matter how much you make. Episode 3, the taste of success, unveiling the secrets of fine wine collecting. This one's going to be especially interesting because I don't drink. I don't know if you've ever seen an Asian man who turns bright red when he drinks, but that's me. So I don't really drink wine. I don't appreciate wine, but I'm going to learn about wine. And it's going to be fun. Episode 4, Investing 101, building a strong financial foundation. And then episode 5, what is episode 5? Episode 5 is the generosity effect, the ripple of inspired giving.
Oh, cool.
So those are some of the themes, right? Make more, give more, and live more. What's new with you, Joe?
Well, Andy,
I'm hoping to get some tips you on
I
how
don't
to.
know. Well, I don't know about that, but we just got Chris back, and I noticed he had a drink. And little known fact, that drink of his is full of Chardonnay. So your brother does all the wine drinking, not you.
By the end of this episode, he's going to have wine all over that white shirt.
That's how we measure success, Chris, is if you got wine all over the front.
All right. If it's a red wine, it'll match my face.
Perfect. Fantastic.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm so excited that you guys are both here to hold my hand through this. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know if I'm going to fall off the tightrope. And to keep things authentic and real in a live stream, even you guys don't really know what's in store at this moment.
We got no idea.
We didn't review much. I just welcomed you in, and you guys are troopers, ready to go.
You were just talking about you were worried about the computer crashing, and I was like, I should close some of the windows, and I closed the stream down.
Well, there you go. Now you know better. I learned yesterday, don't touch anything. Like, I can't even breathe on my keyboard right now for risk of something just shutting down.
Just leave it alone.
So I don't think Joe knows too much about Runnymede Capital. You've certainly never spoken to Chris, but Chris knows you through Stacking Benjamins. I've seen Chris comment in the Stacking Benjamins Facebook group before. So you guys get to know each other.
Awesome.
Chris,
well,
Joe,
that's
Chris.
why I'm really here. I don't really care about you, Andy. It's all about Chris.
Yeah, I'm
Chris,
excited to join.
Can you share with everybody, like, is it true that we've been working together for 20 years?
Yeah, it's been 20 years now, and Runnymede is celebrating our 35th anniversary this year. So
wow,
I guess a lot of round numbers going on. So it's exciting. I can't believe it's 20 years. It's gone by really fast.
There's more white hair.
That's for sure.
Well, Chris, tell everybody, like, you joined Runnymede from CREF, the College Retirement Equities Fund, one of the largest pension funds in the United States. You came to join a family business that is a much smaller company. When you were at CREF, you had, well, talk about some of the big names that actually came through the offices and you got to hear speak in person.
Yeah, I mean, working at CREF, it was right out of college. It was quite a ride. It was 1997, and it was kind of just when the EU was forming. So, I mean, a lot of change was happening, and I don't know, they just threw me in by fire. But during the internet bubble days, I got to meet Steve Jobs when he was at Pixar in like a small, I think it was a breakfast meeting, maybe only 10, 15 people. And I think I was sitting right next to Steve Jobs, which was kind of crazy. And then I had Richard Branson come by pitching Virgin Express. And that was a meeting of like 4 people. So definitely some big names during the time. I also met Dennis Kozlowski, who I don't know if he's still in jail or not, but we got great executives and not so great executives come through during that time.
That's from Tyco.
Yeah, Tyco. Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that guy. Didn't they have like huge parties and, charge the company for all of like his extravagant parties at his house?
Yeah, I think they said he had huge parties. Wasn't it like Jimmy Buffett was performing and they had like huge ice sculptures, and it sounded like they spent millions of dollars on extravagant parties. But
I totally forgot about that name.
Me too. I read that he had like gold garbage cans or something.
Very possible.
That's about the same time as Enron, really. Yeah, I think it's that
totally.
Same era. Yeah.
I had go ahead, Chris.
No, I'd say it was an interesting time. It was just the internet bubble days where it was a period of speculation and a lot of dreams of what the internet would bring. And I think that's kind of what Wall Street is good at, is creating stories and getting people excited. And I think the stories were correct back then. Like, internet was going to change the world. It was going to affect brick and mortar businesses. And it was very early days. I think I was covering initial public offerings for Crest, and I would say 99% of those businesses failed. But I mean, the interesting thing, it was like another 5-10 years before Google and Facebook were created. So now at this time, everyone wants to talk about AI. So is that going to be another bubble that takes 5-10 years? I think that's possible. But people love to get excited about stories. Stories are fun to get invested in, but I don't know if they make the best investment thesis over the short term.
Chris was having so much fun back then because he was attending all the road shows for these companies that were going public, networking companies that, you know, the day that the stock started trading, it would go from like $16 to $200. And at that time, I was learning and working closely with my father, who founded Runnymede. And my dad was teaching me fundamentals. And he's like, all these companies have no earnings. We can't invest in this. And meanwhile, Chris would call us and say, this is fantastic. Like this networking company, we all bought it and we doubled our money and we're selling it as soon as the IPO comes out. And my dad and I were just like, the companies that we're following act like they're going bankrupt, but they're not going bankrupt. They're making money, but their stocks act like they're going bankrupt. So it was just crazy days. Joe, you were going to say?
Well, no. Do you remember that was supposedly there was a phrase for it, but it was like the new normal where, you know, the basics, the fundamentals didn't matter anymore. Remember? I mean, I remember seeing people come through our offices when I was a financial planner telling us that, oh, this is a new normal. You don't need to look at the balance sheet. You don't need to look at none of that matters. It's just go, 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 go. I mean, that's all that. I got fired in 1999 by a client, and we always manage money toward a goal, right? So I wasn't one of these people that were basing my existence on, hey, we got so-and-so X percentage. That wasn't our game. Our game was safety and let's put money in a spot where it reaches what you're trying to do. But I did get fired by a dude who only did 46% in 1999 because his buddies were all doubling their money. And I had the this stupid idea to stay diversified and to not go 100% there. And so he canned me because we only did 46. And I know what he did. He took all his money then and he put it all in growth stocks. And I just had to avoid in 2002 calling him and doing the Dr. Phil, how's that working out for you? Like, do you like having a third of your money left? You know, but man, those were crazy days. I was like, really? I just got canned for 46%.
That is crazy. That brought back memories when you talk about new normal, because we would have like our investment committee meeting every day at 4:00, and all the guys with experience were like, we don't not understand what's going on here. The valuations don't make any sense. And then it was all of us young guys were like, you don't understand. This is like the new thing. All you need are eyeballs, right?
Land grab.
Yeah.
It turns out the only company I think that truly worked for, and I could be wrong, I mean, on a big scale, was Amazon. I mean, I just think Amazon went through that whole period and lost money hand over fist and just kept raising capital and made it through.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think by the end of 2003, maybe the stock had gone down to $1 or $2 or something. So they definitely suffered too through that cycle.
I think it's funny on this note, and I know this isn't what we want to talk about, but on that note, I love people today, and I've seen this a lot the last 6 months, who talk about, oh, you know, buy these blue chips that go up all the time, like Microsoft, right? Like Microsoft. And I worked with a bunch of Microsoft people. They were my clients, and that stock did nothing. If you guys remember, for like 14 years, it did the whole Ballmer era. That stock did zip, just sat there, as they always had decent products and good stuff going on, but they could not get that stock to move out of like the $30, $35 range forever. And so whenever I hear people talk about, oh, look at Microsoft, I mean, this is a company that goes up all the time. I'm like, no, you would totally, during that 14-year period, you would have totally given up and you would have sold your position at some point, just waiting for this stock. I don't know. I love people that look at the last couple of years and go, well, you know, if you had your money in NVIDIA, everything would have been fine.
When you can look back, it makes a lot of sense to just own one name.
That's right.
But looking forward, it gets much harder.
That's right. Yes. Just pick the right one. Duh.
Chris, at Runnymede, we talk to a lot of smart people. We listen to different calls, like different conference calls from really smart people. Since you're our director of research, you mentioned that it took like 15, 20 years for the vision of the internet to become a reality, right? There were many bankruptcies before it really did transform our daily lives. We knew it was coming, but it didn't happen overnight. And you questioned, is AI going to follow a similar pattern? And you also said the most experienced guys back in 2000 were confused. What are you hearing from the smart people right now? I think there's confusion once again, is there not?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, this year, I think, has just been a strange year where you have this AI bubble, despite economy that we feel like is weakening, and you get a very strong rate hiking cycle, which you usually wouldn't expect to see a bubble created when interest rates go from 0 to over 5%. You usually see bubbles form when interest rates are going to 0, or and there's easy money out there. So that's been a strange aspect of this bubble. I think in terms of AI, the valuations, just like in NVIDIA, are crazy. It's like trading maybe 30 to 50 times sales. I would say that's a pretty wild number. I would say that the interesting thing about AI is going to be a different type of development pattern, I think, because in the IPO boom during the internet bubble, it was all new companies. Like, it was all these baby companies that were trying to form out of nothing. In the AI, in this AI new space, it seems to be all the mega caps that are bringing life to AI. So I think in that respect, it's going to be different, and that the big mega caps, they have money to spend, so they can invest and they can probably weather the storm better in terms of the development cycle and where they put money and how they invest money. I mean, it's just even looking at Meta, the way they invested in the metaverse, they were willing to spend billions of dollars and maybe take losses on that for several years. So I think that's going to be the same pattern with AI. I think they've been investing in AI for 10 years now. I don't think that's really anything new, really. It's just kind of caught the ChatGPT has really caught the mind share of the retail investor. And all of a sudden we can say, oh, we can play with ChatGPT and understand what the AI benefits can be. Like, if you're a blogger, it helps you write an article at least much faster. You just have to make sure that the facts are real, or
actually facts.
Yeah, the facts are actually facts.
Joe, you have some interesting experiences testing out ChatGPT.
I did. I tried it. ChatGPT loves to do headlines with colons. And whenever we're doing a Stacking Benjamins headline, we always just go to ChatGPT and we're like, if we got a boring one, one that just doesn't seem great, we're like, hey, could you punch this up for us? It'll give us an idea, but it's always like, it's always like inspired money, unlocking your path to financial freedom, right? What we have today. But there's always a colon in there. So I said, hey, the first thing it gave me was use the word hacks. And I said, try to give this to me without the word hacks. And then it gave it to me with a colon. And I said, okay, I don't want everybody on earth to know this is ChatGPT. So let's try to take the colon out. It goes, oh yeah, my bad. And it gives me another one that has a colon in it. And I have to tell ChatGPT, I go, hey, that one you just gave me has a colon in it. And it tells me again, it's like my mistake, totally my mistake. Let me give you another one. This one doesn't have a colon in it. And it gives me a colon again. It gives me something and it's got a colon, like, you know, whatever name, colon descriptor. And so then I just said, you know, because now I talk to ChatGPT like it's a friend of mine. I'm like, okay, are you messing with me? And ChatGPT goes, no, I'm not messing with you. I'm sorry. I guess I was wrong again. Let me give you one that I 100% guarantee does not have a colon in it. And it gives me another one that has a colon in it. And this goes on. At that point, I just thought it was funny. So I just kept going and going, and it could not create one that didn't have a colon. I didn't try that hard, though. I was just trying to see if at some point it would break, and it was not going to break.
And I'm convinced that if the Terminator shows up knocking on our doors, it's because Joe Saul-Sehy just annoyed the heck out of ChatGPT with this colon request.
It'll say, hi, I'm the Terminator, making your day worse or something, you know?
Joe Saul-Sehy, yes. colon.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
Well, that's a little bit about Runnymede and the research that we do, a little bit about ChatGPT. Joe, I want Chris to share with you something that's very different. I have yet to meet any other financial advisor or planning firm who does something like Buy Local NJ. Chris, could you talk about Buy Local?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Buy Local NJ was something that we created. I came up with the idea just because Andy and I, we were born and raised in New Jersey, and we've seen so many businesses that we love come and go. And now with the internet, like that we've talked about before, especially with Amazon, everyone in these neighborhoods has tons of Amazon boxes showing up at their door. And when you drive down Main Street, you see a lot of vacancies. And some of our favorite businesses closed. So Andy and I decided that, hey, we need to create a kind of web series that features local New Jersey businesses, that especially the ones that we love, just to give them a voice and give them a spotlight, to share their stories and why we should support local businesses. And the interesting thing is, I mean, we created this, is it 5 years now? It was before the pandemic, and I think this really, during the pandemic, it gave Buy Local even a bigger voice, because everyone realized, hey, it's these local businesses that are so important to us, and we better give back to these local businesses. We have one business in town. Well, we actually created a video for my town, Berkeley Heights. And we raised over $200,000 for grant money for businesses, and we gave those grants to business owners. One of them was so happy, and he was just blown away by the community support that people would give out of their own pockets to support his business and help him get through the crisis. And something that we found fascinating about Buy Local is that every single one of these businesses, they all give back to the community. And if they live in the community, their kids go to school in the community, and they're the ones that support the school fundraisers, the school bake sale. And most of them never say no to these school events. And they're the ones that really make our downtowns something special. So, I mean, it's been a kind of a privilege to hear these stories and to hear how all the businesses give back and really make our community strong and unique.
I feel like that's what we're all looking for. Like, there's this resurgence across America, maybe across the world, I don't know, but certainly across America, where people are looking for something that is different, something that defines where you are. There's nothing I like better than when I go to a different part of the country and I get to eat at a local restaurant. I get to walk into a local shop, and I'm not in I think the mullification of America that happened in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, there's this direct rejection of that. You're also seeing that, by the way. There was a cool book that came out 7 or 8 years ago, I think now, called The Walkable City, which is really interesting because it talks about how a lot of America, was built for cars, and cars make it so that we don't support each other. Like, we get in our car and we just go to the place where we're going to go. Where you saw it was originally millennials who, started the resurgence of moving back to our downtowns, away from the strip mall land and back to downtowns. And we're seeing it here in the little city that I'm in, Texarkana, Texas / Arkansas. We're right on the border. I've been here 14 years, and the difference in our downtown is huge. Like, it is, we finally have streets where on a Friday night, it's hard to get a parking spot, where when I first moved here, there was nobody downtown. There was nobody. So I don't know. I feel like it's super cool what you guys are doing, but I feel like hopefully this is part of a bigger movement.
Well, when we started it, I joked with Chris. I said, isn't it a little odd that two brothers who are financial advisors, we have these videos on our financial advisory firm's website of us visiting local businesses, like I'm eating a taco, we went to this workout place where, I don't even know what you call it, like this fitness place where you hang from these, it's like Cirque du Soleil. And it's a crazy workout. You need to have like 6-pack abs and like a really strong core.
Like you do.
Yeah. I was the cameraman for this one. Chris and I alternate. Chris actually got up in the ropes, and the teacher is this very attractive blonde instructor. She's very nice. She's the owner, and she's showing Chris, she's demonstrating, and she's so graceful. She's like strong and graceful and showing him these moves. And then Chris gets up there and he's just shaking. And then I'm holding the camera and I'm trying not to laugh and I'm shaking. But I love this message of supporting local business. And it did end up on our website because we feel like it just shows our involvement in the community and that we are trying to give back to the community. And I just love it because in this time of such divisive politics, I feel like it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left or in the middle. Few people are arguing not to support small business. Like, I haven't met somebody who says, I'm only supporting Fortune 500 companies. And it is true that these small business owners, the restaurants, the places where you go exercise, all these places in town, they're the gathering places that really support the values where we live. And they're the places where we go celebrate birthdays and celebrate anniversaries. And if we're just buying online and these businesses have to shut down, who suffers? We do.
I don't know if you've seen Professor Scott Galloway has all these statistics in his last book about how, we don't belong to local organizations like the Kiwanis anymore. People don't do that. People don't go out to local events. They don't eat at local food places. We're losing the sense of identity. And it's a super scary thing. So on one hand, I see this group of people that are doing like you guys are doing, or we're seeing here where people are moving downtown. But the macro trend, the bigger trend of just all people is that we're not doing the community stuff anymore. Instead, we're jumping on Facebook and yelling at each other, and I think that this kind of ties into, in your header, it says unlocking the path to financial freedom. And this is what has been on my mind lately, is that we'll have these people that will write to Stacking Benjamins. We actually have one today who said, hey, I'm 55 years old. I'm completely financially independent. I think I'm okay. I think I'm fine. And I'm just going to do this 50-50 mix, 50% large company stocks, 50% bonds. And I'm just going to let it flow. And I don't care because I've done the math and I'm good. And I don't need to get, quote, fancier than that. And this bothers me because what I saw when I was a financial planner was these people that would wait till 62, 65, whatever, to try to retire. And believe it or not, I will bring this back to community because you guys are like, what the hell are you doing? I will. This has a lot to do with community. 62, 65 or whatever. And then they retire. Right. And we would have this big party for them. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of joy. And then 18 months later, as you guys know, because you guys, I'm sure, have seen the same thing. 18 months later, they're in my office going, they're having an identity crisis. They're like, what is it all about? Is this it? Like, I thought it was going to be travel, golf, work in the garden, read more books. Those are fine goals, but those are hedonistic sugar. That is not a life. That is not an existence. And you start to realize that I need more than that. And I thought, when I went from financial planning to financial media, that the FIRE movement people had figured all that out, right? That was it. And they haven't. Like, I see people, and you guys may know these people. I'm not going to say any names, but there have been big bloggers in our space who have sold their properties after talking about financial independence, sold their properties for a lot of money at a very young age. And then we see them online and they are very clearly searching for identity. They're searching for what the next thing is. I've seen people that have run companies in our space that have sold the companies while in their 40s for tons of money. And I see them online and they're searching for identity. They're wondering what to do. And I feel like when you get to the point, early on, we need kind of these goals that we're looking forward to, like a retirement date, maybe a kid's college, vacation, whatever it is, these goals that we always talk about in financial planning. We need those early on. But I feel like when people get past those, there's this brick wall. And nobody's talking about really what my life is about if it's not about the work that I do. And this is, I think, the really important part of financial independence is once you get there, Wes Moss, in his book, What the Happiest Retirees Know, he says that the happiest retirees have 6 hobbies, right? Not 1 or 2, they have 6. And I don't think hobbies is a strong enough word. I think that they have 6 things they're passionate about and they don't even care about the job anymore. Like, if they're super happy in, quote, retirement, it's because they've replaced it with stuff that's more important. So I think the biggest part to me right now, where my head is around unlocking financial freedom, it isn't just on getting there. It's in thinking about our legacy, about thinking bigger thoughts than I'm okay. Like, now when somebody's 50 years old and they go, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, you are not okay. There's no way at 50 you're okay. Because maybe you are, but I doubt it. I very seriously doubt it. And usually when somebody gives me that, oh, I'm okay, because people who truly are okay don't say they're okay. They're like, oh my goodness, I've got to do all this stuff in my community. I got to do all this stuff in my, you know what I mean? They're so busy because they realize time is so not on their side that they would never use that language. So anyway, I think that's it. Thinking about legacy planning and most of that, and this is where I get back to most of that is in your community, right? Serving on boards in your community, teaching people in your community about financial independence, helping out in the schools around you, things like that. Huge ways to maybe, bring your brother or sister along with you.
Well, in interviewing like 273 people, over 200, almost 300 people on Inspired Money over the last 5-6 years, that's been one of the recurring themes, that money is not enough. And what you're talking about, Joe, really reminds me of Doc G, who you work with.
Yeah.
Doc G, he's a doctor and achieved financial independence only to find that he was kind of depressed. Like, he didn't know what he should do with his life. He looked at his bank account and he saw that I have enough money, but now what? And really had to do a lot of soul searching before he kind of went back to say, what is it about the medical profession that what part of it do I enjoy? And for him, it was being a hospice doctor, working with the dying, holding their hand through that process. And it's something that most of us are not comfortable dealing with, right? Facing death, helping people to go through that. But he really enjoyed that. And I love that as a financial independence guy, he wrote his book. It's like Lessons from the Dying about money, because his takeaway, or at least my takeaway from talking to him, was that nobody on their deathbed was saying, I wish I had more money.
Right.
They were all reflecting about their relationships, their communities, what was important in their life, their regrets, what would they have done differently? And it goes back to what you're talking about, legacy.
But I like that he also shined a light on the other side too, which is, there's some people out there also that go, well, I don't have any money because money's not important. And it's this excuse. And yet he also shines the light, as in his book on that it is possible to have too little money and it ends up just destroying your ability to do any of this stuff because you're so busy living paycheck to paycheck in your retirement years that you never get to do any of this legacy stuff anyway.
Joe, you changed careers when you were 40. You have twins that you had to put through college. Was that scary in terms like in the context of financial freedom?
Well, luckily I owned a business and I got like 16 bags of money for that business at 40. So no, what was scary was that change though of really what I wanted my next thing to be. What was even more horrifying at 40 though, was the fact that I knew, because the reason I sold my business at 40 was because a friend of mine had left the business and he wrote this great letter saying he had other mountains to climb. I felt like and by the way, he really did. He climbed Everest and Denali, and he's climbed most of the tall peaks around the world. He's climbed Everest twice, but and now he's an adventure travel guide and he loves it. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, Chris, I like this. I don't love it. And if I can only live once, I got to do this now. So that part was scary. The money part for me, the good news is between a spouse that loved what she did and the money that I got from selling my business, I had time to figure that out, but I went searching for it. I feel like instead of what I see a lot, and you guys see a lot, I'm sure, is people jumping off of a career, not jumping towards something, but jumping away from something. And I was clearly not jumping away from financial planning. I was jumping toward, I know there's a thing waiting for me out there that I connect with better than this. So I was on a hunt. And during that hunt, it took me to a few different places before we found the podcast. But yeah.
Did you have to think about that, or did you know? Because clearly you love what you do today.
Did I think about selling my business?
No. Did you have to, like, after you sold your business, was it immediately apparent to you, like, I want to go into financial media, or did you have to really be introspective and think about it?
So I started taking classes to become a high school teacher and a track coach because I loved my time coaching middle school track. It's where I met my wife. And I took a team that was a last place team, middle school track. We were last place in our conference, and we were third place my first year, first place my second year, and then all my kids that were phenomenal left. And my team that was just a bunch of can-do bad news bears were second. And the team that won had way more talent than my team did. And they had to climb over us. Like, we almost won the championship again. And so those 3 years I look back on really fondly, and I love working with kids. So I was like, okay, I want to be a teacher and a track coach. And by the way, when I told my clients that I was leaving financial planning to do that, they're like, you'd be a great teacher, but you don't want to go into teaching, which is horrible. By the way, it is horrible. They're like, you're not going to get to teach any of the stuff you want to teach. You're going to have to teach to test. It's going to be just, I mean, it's so frustrating that when I was growing up in the 80s, teachers were middle class people in society. And by and large, teachers, you know, when somebody tells you they're a teacher, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't make much money. You must have a spouse that works doing something that pays more, which puts a pit in my stomach that we've done that to the profession. But yeah, so that's what I was going to do first. And then I was an English major in college. I never got to use that. So I wrote a middle grade fiction novel that my friend Doug, who's on our show, read and says is really good. It has like this one big flaw, which is why it's not published yet. I was going to rewrite it from the beginning to get rid of the flaw. One of the characters was a boy in the first draft, in all the drafts that I'd done. And truly the story would have been transcendental if that character was a girl. And so I need to change everything throughout, change his character the whole way. So anyway, that's sitting, actually it's sitting right there next to where I'm at now, waiting for me to someday get back to it. But anyway, then I decided to start writing about money again and teaching money. That became a blog then became the podcast. And then I got to sit here with Andy and Chris, which is the highlight of my existence.
So Joe, what do you do in a live stream when the dog is barking uncontrollably?
You maybe put it on mute. I don't. You put the dog on mute. Can you put the dog on mute?
Electric collar.
I don't know if that would help. I don't know. It's a wonderful world, man.
Now we're going to get the complaints from the animal activists. We love animals. We love animals.
Yes. PETA, send your hate mail to Andy at.
Yeah, that's Chris got the red all over his shirt. That's from his wine. You guys.
Yeah, I'm hugely interested though in this topic of legacy, and you're right, Andy. I mean, when I listen to your show and I hear person after person talk about how it's more than just the money, like there's more going there, but I think that it leads back to money. Like, you know, some of the things that frustrate me, and this is going to be like lighting a torch under a lot of people. So I'll say something very incendiary, which J.L. Collins frustrates me. J.L. Collins wrote this great book called A Simple Path to Wealth, and it is a great book. And I think what it did that was wonderful that people don't think about is it took the fear off the table for people just beginning who are worried about having the right asset allocation and picking the right investment. It completely took that off the table. And it said, you know what? We don't have to worry about any of that. We don't worry about any of it. You can use the total stock market index and get there. Like it's going to be fine. But when I see somebody who's age 50 who says, I'm okay, and all their money is in the Vanguard total stock market index fund, I have to tell them J.L. Collins didn't write the optimal path to wealth. He didn't write the best path to wealth. He wrote the simple path to wealth. And it's great for beginners, but there is a 201, right? And I feel like the FIRE movement has not graduated to this money management thing that can help you create legacies. It's like we sailed the Mayflower across the ocean. We find this quote new world, by the way, where there's already people living, but we'll get away from that, you know, and nobody gets off the ship. Like we do this whole thing. And I'm like, why don't you guys get off the ship? Why don't we use the efficient frontier? Why don't we use some of these things that can help build legacies, can help build, and people that are analytical in every other place are not analytical about that. And it drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely nuts, because we could have more financial freedom if some of the proponents of the FIRE movement who are doing all this good work would fully embrace that you can actually manage money well on top of all this other cool stuff you're doing.
Yeah, we will be covering a lot of these things in this 100 series live stream here at Inspired Money, and exploring, as I said, it's okay. Like, life is not all about money. If your sole focus is money, odds are you're not feeling very fulfilled or happy. But it's okay to have money. Money is a tool. Money is a necessary tool. And I will even learn about wine or watches or collectible cars. In addition to investing and savings, we're going to have a lot of broad topics here. I think one of the really important things about money is giving back. And too often, we feel like I'll give back when I have more money. But I've talked to so many people who say that giving back can start even when you don't have a lot, because you can donate your time, talents, or treasures. It doesn't have to be about money. Chris has been actively donating, giving microloans to like third world countries. Chris, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I want to shine a spotlight, one, on the good work that you're doing there, but also the fact that you can arbitrage, because the power of the dollar is so much more powerful in other places.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I was inspired by a trip that I took to Cambodia. That was in 2004. And it was like you're saying, that you don't need a lot of money to be happy. When I went to Cambodia, I mean, there were a lot of kids living on the street, which was very unfortunate. But a lot of people there just make $1 a day. But you didn't get a sense that people were unhappy. You saw people spending time with community, spending time with family. My tour guide took me to this river down by Siem Reap, and we actually had lunch with the guest house owner and their family. They invited us, and we ate there. And it just seeing and I saw these kids jumping and swimming in the river. They didn't have a care in the world, really, even though I think they had so little. A lot of them didn't even have a working, like, they didn't have bathrooms at their houses. So when I came back from that trip, I mean, I was totally moved by the people of Cambodia for when they didn't have very much, but they lived such a full life.
Chris, before you continue,
yeah,
those kids really made a big impression on me too. At every like tourist site you go to, because it's like one of the wonders of the world. You go to see these ruins or these temples, and there would be these young kids there. They had so little. I mean, I don't know what their homes look like. These kids were also super entrepreneurial. They would be selling postcards and souvenirs, and totally resourceful, because they'd immediately come towards you and identify you as an English-speaking group. And then they'd start asking you, "Sir, will you buy a postcard from me, please?" And then if you buy one, they thank you. If not, they're like, "Come back before you leave." And then like behind you, there's a German tour group, and these kids would start speaking German. It was great. I love these kids. And I noticed that after we walked away from them, they were just kids. Like, they were working, but then after the groups go by, they're just playing and being kids. They were laughing and having a great time. So sorry, Chris, you may continue. I do appreciate also that you convinced your tour guide to take you to a local restaurant where the locals would really go. You shouldn't have done that.
That's a whole different story. But I'll just go back to I mean, when I came back from that trip, I was like, how am I going to give back to people, like the people that I met in Cambodia? And at about that time, Muhammad Yunus had won the Nobel Prize for microloans. So it kind of sent me down this wormhole of learning about microfinance, and that led me to kiva.org, which was supplying microloans to the developed world. And it's really about a lot of the stories about giving access to people in the developed world, and a lot of it's about giving access to money to women who in a lot of countries really don't have the ability to take out a loan and get financing to start a business. So I started making loans in, I think it was either 2006 or 2007, and I've continued to make loans over the years. And I think one of the fascinating things was that even during that great financial crisis, which affected the global economy, I had very few loans that defaulted. So yeah, so since that time, I'm looking at this, I've made 7,500 loans. That's just 20. Wow. You can loan $25, or you can loan the whole amount. But out of 7,500 loans, the default rate of that portfolio is 0.59%. Less than 1% of the loans have defaulted. I mean, I think that's incredible. And it's, I think it go back to that quote of, you can give a man a fish, or you can teach him how to fish. And, you know, that creates a lifetime of feeding him. So, I mean, like, you're giving financing to people that need access to money, and hopefully that it can change their life over the long term. And I'm hoping that we can make a big impact in the U.S. because, I mean, we have this opportunity to kind of spread that money around, and it made it even more an easier decision during that time of zero interest rates when the banks don't pay you anything. I'm like, oh, I'll give out a loan, and I'd rather have it recycle into the developing world rather than give it to the big banks that are just kind of taking my capital and making tons of money off of it.
Now you can take your interest that you're earning and lend it out.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you actually earn interest on Kiva loans, though?
No, you do not earn interest on Kiva loans.
Yeah. But that's fascinating that you don't have, that your defaults are almost non-existent. I mean, these are people clearly that are grateful for the help they're giving, or given the chance that they're given. That's pretty inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to go out into some of these countries to meet the people that have taken the loans. I haven't had the chance to do that yet. I'm hoping to do that at some point.
Chris, can you just give like an example or two of what kind of businesses you lent to?
Sure. I mean, one of the reasons why I think the default rate is low is I usually try to pick loans that are going to businesses that are usually like food related or restaurant related, where you would think that those are going to be businesses that would be steady and recession proof. So in that sense, I kind of put on my analyst hat and try to look for risk profiles. But I mean, there's tons of people that are running general stores. But I did make one loan in Cambodia where the people were, they wanted to build a latrine in their house. So that was like out of my comfort, out of my typical loan. But I was like, man, I can't imagine living in a house where there's no bathroom. Like, that's just got to be totally rough. So I was like, I'm definitely making a loan for that. And I believe I'm pretty sure that one actually paid back. So
I just can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just going to Cambodia, when you see the houses, I mean, it's just basically a little shack with no running water. You see the people carrying the buckets on their back. It just makes you realize how privileged a life we live. And even the people that are poor in our country aren't really poor in comparison to most of the world. So, I mean, we're definitely very fortunate in this country.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. You guys have any comments before we wrap up?
I thought that I had and I don't. So I shouldn't have even, mentioned it. Let's see if I can find this. Oh, here it is. I do have it. Hold on a second. You know, we do, as you guys already know, we do a lot of comedy on Stacking Benjamins. And so this idea of giving and helping other cultures. You mind if I play you a preview of a giving campaign that is in full swing in Arkansas that might help a lot of people?
Please go for it.
This is, we do a segment called a TikTok Minute, and this is an upcoming TikTok Minute. This is Hagerville Hank from Arkansas, who's making a plea for help. Let's listen.
1 in 5 Arkansas men do not know where their next beer is going to come from. It's very sad. With your contribution of just 69 cents per day, you can alleviate all the stress of all the Arkansas beer drinkers out there. And your contribution of just 69 cents a day, upon donation, we'll send you a picture of your sponsored beer drinker. Not only that, we'll send you a monthly updates of statistics, exactly how your money was spent and how it helped the beer drinker you sponsored. We appreciate all the help you can do. It's for the kids.
It's for the kids.
Joe, I've got something in my eye.
No Bud Light.
The Arkansas beer drinkers might not need it as much as those Kiva people do. Slightly less.
Well, thank you, Joe Saul-Sehy, for bringing some comedy to the show. People can find you at stackingbenjamins.com. You're all over the place.
You'll hear more of that brilliance, like you just heard right there at Stacking Benjamins.
My brother Chris's debut appearance on Inspired Money, I think. I've
Awesome.
waited way too long.
It's about time. About time you brought some talent to the show, Chris.
I know, right?
We've talked about having a talk between us, but we just never executed it.
We will be doing that. But yeah, generally Chris is too busy issuing microloans. Like,
That's right.
it's just not accessible.
I think he just found another new group to loan to.
Maybe.
Arkansas. So thank you everybody for joining us. I really appreciate you guys kicking the tires with me on this first pre-stream. And I count my blessings that my computer did not crash. Otherwise, Joe would have become the host of Inspired Money.
Which was my whole goal being here, actually. It was my whole goal. It's ruined.
So thank you guys. Thanks to those who joined us, who are watching and listening. Stay tuned. Mark your calendars now. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I'll let you guys adjust for your time zones. But we hope to see you live, where you can enter questions and engage with the guests or with the guest or guests that we're going to have. And I think that we're just going to have a lot of fun together. So thank you, everybody.